Hello, my name is Jalia Pettis, and we are in week 5. In week 5, we are discussing flattering hair color. So I'm going to jump right into it. Y'all ready? Okay, here goes. So when we're talking about hair color, it's important to understand that you want to select a hair color that is going to be best suited for you. Of course, we're seeing tons of different things on social media that might be attracting our eye, but how can you know if a hair color is really flattering for you or not? So I always suggest that you pick out some colors that you are interested in testing. And in doing that, you kind of swatch in a way so that you can get an idea as to what that looks like. And you're like, swatch, Jalia, here you go. You're using terms that don't make sense. I'm using the terms that I, as a licensed beauty professional, would use if I had a consumer in my chair. So this means no going out buying box color and doing it yourself. Okay, first and foremost. But it's important that we do some types of testing so that we can kind of get an idea of what might look good or what might not look good. So my rule of thumb when I'm consulting with a client is to kind of get an idea of what they want. And then after I get an idea of what they want, I think about the seasons that we're in. So if we're in the winter season, we might be looking at something that has more of a darker tone to it. Whereas if we're in the summer season, we might look at, possibly lighting the hair or making something more warm. So, but it's important to take into consideration, just like we talked about last week with our skin tones, it's important to take all of that into consideration as well. There are some people that can literally rock any hairstyle, any hair color, and it look amazing on them. And then there are some that it's like, ooh, wait a minute, what are you doing? And we don't want to be one of those, wait a minute, what are you doing people? So it's important that we swatch. So when you're talking about swatching, what does that mean? It's almost like doing a test to kind of get an idea of what it might look like. So you take one piece of hair, or you take a color of the hair that your client has, and you do a test on that to see what it would look like for that individual, okay? We always, as professionals, are going to be looking at the color wheel. And if I have any people that are into crafts and arts and things of that nature and like making trips to Hobby Lobby and Michael's, you can go into the craft store and you'll see a circle that has like all of the colors on it. And that is going to help us in determining what colors are going to be best for our particular clients. Now, of course, when you're purchasing color, there are numbers on there, and then there are point something numbers on there, and it can kind of get a little bit confusing, which is why, as professionals, we always recommend that you come to us versus doing it yourself. And it's important to know, like, if you're somebody that wants to have really, really blonde hair and your hair is really, really dark, that's not a process that we want to just jump into and say, okay, I can do it for you and it's gonna turn out like this at the end. There's a lot of conversation that needs to happen. We need to find out about what you've done to your hair up till now, whether that's a perm or whether that's virgin hair or whether that's henna or whether that's a box dye. All of that is going to play into what your end result could potentially be. And for me personally, I don't like to tell my clients, show me a picture of what you want, and then at the end, it's going to look exactly like this, especially if it's somebody that I haven't worked on previously. I take them through the steps. We go, like, it's a commitment. It's a relationship, basically. So I'm letting them know, you know what, we're going to start. We know this is the end goal, but let's do a test first to see how this is gonna look. I'm going to lighten you or I'm gonna darken you, but I'm not gonna bring you exactly to what you want in that photo because I need to see how your hair is going to respond. And then two, that allows me to build loyalty with my client, them understanding that I'm not just gonna do anything to their hair and not care for it. All of those things are super, super important. So I take my clients through processes, and I let them know that we're going to do a little bit this time, and then in 4 to 6 weeks we'll do a little of this, and then in 4 to 6 weeks we'll do a little bit of this, because it's important to make sure that you're not compromising the integrity of an individual's hair. So what I'm going to do for you in this class today is I'm going to pull out a few mannequin heads, and I'm going to show you on those mannequin heads what the lightening process looks like if you're somebody that's interested in lightening your hair. And then I'm also going to show you some colors as far as like what those colors mean, so that you can have a more educated conversation with your stylist as to what you feel like might be best, okay? But I encourage you to have conversations with whomever your stylist is, because I promise you, once you start doing it yourself and it doesn't quite turn out the way that you want, that's going to affect the results when you come to see a professional, okay? So I'm going to pull out my mannequin heads, and I'm going to show you a little bit of what we have going on and what color means what, and when you hear these terminology. But just think about the color wheel. Think about what we talked about previously when it with regard to like undertone, because that is going to come back up. All right, y'all ready? Here we go. All right, so I want to show you an example of a color wheel that a hairstylist will look at. Now, this is slightly different than a color wheel that you'll see a makeup artist look at, or even a painter. And basically, this is kind of like our guide. And I want to break down exactly what this is so that it can kind of help you a little bit more. When you're thinking about colors across from one another, those are going to be what we call complementary colors. And although the terminology complementary colors means that it's a compliment, but when we're thinking about it from the mind of a beauty professional, it is letting you know that that color is going to cancel out the other, or it will correct the other. So for individuals that might feel like their hair is too green or too neutral, they're going to use a red to cancel that out, to bring it back to its natural state. For somebody that feels like it might be too brassy or yellow, they're going to use a purple to bring it back to its natural state. For somebody that feels like their hair might be a little bit too ginger or copper, they're going to use blues to cancel it out, to bring it back to that natural state. So this is what we're looking at as hairstylists. Again, this is a different color wheel than what a makeup artist or a painter would look at. Now, you probably will go to your stylist and you'll see something like this as well, where you have these little hair swatches, or you might see them when you go to your local beauty supply store. This is letting you know an example of what that color will look like on hair. Now, let me dive into this a little bit more, because this does not mean that if you have really dark hair and you put this color on your hair, that this is what your hair color is going to turn out to be. This is letting you know this is what it could be, but you have to lighten your hair first in order for it to get to these, okay? So these can be a little misleading to a consumer, because this is making you think, oh my goodness, if I just put this color on my hair, it's going to look exactly like this. No, it is not. We're starting basically with like super bleached out white hair before we putting these things on. And these are examples of toners, actually. So a toner is going to be after you have bleached the hair and you put a gloss or a toner over the top of it. This is what it could potentially look like. Now, as a professional, that I'm going to buy something like this. And this is what I would put on top of somebody that I've bleached out and wants to tone their hair. And I have a couple of examples of this on my TikTok, which I'm going to link for you. But I have a client that loves to have their hair very kind of cool and icy in tone. So I bleach him and I do his color refresh about every 4 to 6 weeks. And then he's ready to go and he's ready to rock and roll, and it does not compromise his curls at the same time. So that's an example of swatches and toners after you've bleached. Now, an example of something that might be considered a rinse, you know, that's terminology for the old school kitchen hairstylist. You would use something like this. So basically, this is not permanent. It is a rinse or semi-permanent. So you could put this on top of your hair color as it is now, allow it to process for a little bit. You don't have to mix this with anything, no developer or anything. You could just put it on there. And then when you're in the sun, you'll see that hint of color in the hair. Now, I have these because I like to play with a lot of different swatches when I'm creating. So I like to use something that's inexpensive and will just basically get me the color payoff that I'm looking for. So these are semi-permanents. These are not necessarily something that a professional is using unless they're like using it for like a wig or extensions or something like that. But this is an example of something that is easily accessible to a consumer. Now, as it relates to permanent hair color, it's gonna come in a box like this. And basically what this means is you're going to need some form of a developer in order to mix with this before you apply it on that individual's hair. So this particular brand, I guess brand really doesn't matter, but for the purpose of kind of showing you what this is, I've been using this brand for a little while now, and I mix it with the developer, the tube with the developer, and then I allow it to process based on whatever the time that I'm looking for, and it gives me the color payoff that I'm anticipating. So we have semi-permanents or rinses, we have permanents, and then we have toners or glosses once we have bleached somebody and they kind of want to just get that brassiness away. Now I have one of my mannequin heads here because I want to give you an example of a hair color. Now, when we're talking about hair color and the leveling that we as professionals use, 1 is going to be the darkest and 10 is going to be the lightest. So when we're looking through our coloring systems, those are the numbers that we're using. So 1 is going to be the darkest, like the blackest black, and then 10 is going to be your lightest platinum type of blonde. So when we're thinking about 4s, 5s, and 6s, those are the colors that are right in between. So for the purpose of understanding what that might look like, this is going to be more of a 6. So it's closer to like a brownish red. And this would be something that would look really cute like in the summertime because we have those flecks of red and gold in there. And this is just how this particular mannequin head came. But all of my mannequin heads, I like to play and test with them because they come in different textures of hair as well, which also gives me another opportunity to see how I can manipulate. And then I have mannequin heads like this that, again, this is more of a brown. If we look at the difference in the color, this is more of a 4. See the difference? So this is more of that 6 tone because I'm seeing golds and reds, and this is more of a brown like a 4, okay? And again, it's kind of just depending on the way that the light is hitting. So I'm gonna pull in my mannequin head and I'm gonna show you what it's gonna look like on a head that's a lot darker. All right, so I have my mannequin head here, and this is an example of a hair color that is about a level 2. So it's like a brownish black. And I am going to do an example for you of putting a bleach on here in 2 different developers so that you can see how it lightens in order to get your desired color. Now, I'm also going to do it on this particular head. Now, this head is a lot lighter than this one, okay? So this one is probably around a 5. And I'm going to do the exact same processes on this. I'm going to speed it up so that you can see it. And then it's going to process, and then I'm going to unveil it so that you can see the difference in the lightening process when we're talking about somebody that has really dark hair versus someone that has a little bit lighter hair, okay? So I'm gonna do that for you. And I'm also going to be utilizing 2 different levels of developer. And I know you're like, Jalia, wait a minute, here you go with this terminology again. So I'm going to use a 20 volume developer as well as a 30 volume developer. And I'm doing that so that you can see the difference, but I'm also going to do it at the exact same time so that you can see it side by side. Basically, as a professional, when we're using a developer, it's allowing us to, it's basically a peroxide that's allowing whatever that agent that we're putting on to either lift or deposit color. So in some colors, when you're depositing color, you would use like a 5% peroxide or a 10% peroxide. And then when you're lifting, you could do a 10, a 20, or a 30. They have 40, but I do not like to do 40. I like to keep it slow so that I can see how things are going. The highest I will go is 30, and that's after I've already been working with that individual's hair, because baby, let me tell you, I've seen it done wrong and fried people's hair out, and then you're wondering why you're able to do like this and the hair is just coming out because you compromised the integrity of the hair. But again, it's just for the general purpose of allowing you to see how you can lift your natural pigment in the hair and seeing what might work for you. So I'm going to lift on both, and I'm going to show you what that result looks like on both. And then we'll talk a little bit more, okay? All right, let's jump into it. So what I'm doing here is sectioning off the hair. I'm adding the bleach powder, and then I am adding the developer in 20 and in 30. I'm using a different colored brush so that I know which section I use that particular developer on. And then I'm actually going to go back and mark it as well so that I know the difference between the two. All right, so it has been 30 minutes. So I want to show you what this is looking like. And I actually did mark 20 and 30 on there just for my own peace of mind. But I am going to take this 20 off first. And remember, this is on hair that was considered a level 2, so like a brownish black. Okay, so we can kind of see that this has lightened quite a bit, right? So we're gonna wash that just for the sake of this video, because I want you to see what it looks like when it's clean. And then this one is our 30. Okay, so just wiping some of that off. Okay, so it's a tiny difference, not much though, but there is a tiny difference. I can see it with my natural eye because I've trained my eye to see color or lack thereof, but not much. But there is definitely a difference in the lightening process, okay? So I am going to fold this back up, and I'm gonna take her off so we can see our other girl back here. Now we did hers in the front, and I know you're probably like, why'd you do it in the front? One, because if you hear the term money piece, that's normally the pieces that are framing the face. So I wanted to do it in the front so you could see. Now this one, these packs is a little swollen. And I will say that I put more product on this particular mannequin head because the hair texture is different than my other mannequin head. And again, I marked on them. So we had a lighter color hair to begin with. So this is very much looking like the banana. I like to refer to this as like banana peel. This is very, very much looking like banana peel. So I see a lot of yellow. Let's turn her to the side. And same thing on this side. And it's lifted it all the way through. Okay. So we have 20 and 30. It's not that big of a difference. It does not look like that big of a difference, but it is that big of a difference when you're lightening someone's hair for the very first time that you've never lightened before. So I'm going to wash both of these so that you can see them without all of the bleach products still on, and then I'm gonna come back and let you see what that looks like, okay? All right, here we go. Okay, we are back, and I have shampooed and blown out my mannequin head that has the darkest color, and I can definitely see more of a difference now. And this is showing me that this dark hair receives the bleach. However, it pulled the hair more cool in tone. So I'm seeing more ash, I'm seeing greens and blues and purples, which lets me know that those colors will be more complementary if we were to tone it. I haven't put any toner on, but this just kind of gives you a general idea as to how it lightens with someone that has darker hair. Now I'm going to show you my other head. And remember, she was my lighter head. And again, I can see the difference in the sides, but this one is showing me that a warmer tone is going to look nicer on and more flattering on this particular individual, because one, that's what their base color already is. Their base color is already warmer. So this blonde piece that we're seeing is pulling more golden, which is letting us know that's where the warmth is. Now, I did one other head just for the sake of showing a difference. And you can tell I've done quite a bit with her because her hair is two completely different colors on both sides. But I did put the bleach on. I put 20 on this side and 30 on this side. And I blow dried it out afterwards. And this just really looks really good on this skin tone. So this would be somebody that has more of an olive complexion. You could go either direction. Again, just like I mentioned to you last time with the makeup application and with regard to different accessories that you can wear, the olive tones are the ones that can pull off a lot of color. So it's nice to always play in that manner. But this kind of just blended out really beautifully on both sides. So we have the lighter side that's pulling more golden, and even on this darker side, we see a few ashy pieces in there, but it's also looking really good with the golden pieces. So this was just another one that I did just for the sake of showing you the difference. Now, for me, as somebody that has olive skin, I know that I can go either way. And the way that I normally color my own hair is in the wintertime, I would use more of cool tones. And in the summertime, I'll use more warm tones. I'm able to do that because why? I'm neutral. My undertone of my skin is neutral. So that lets me know that that is flattering for me. So in the summertime, in the wintertime, I'll normally do something that's more of a cool tone like magenta because I love reds. But it'll be more like magenta or a little bit more of a purple hue because that's cooler in the winter. Whereas in the summertime, which is where we are now, I can do browns with a red. I can do coppers. I can do fiery reds. I can really kind of play with a lot of those tones. And I actually just did a color on my niece and my sister. Now, they are different skin tones than me, but I understand what their undertone is. So my sister, she actually asked for something that was more on the ginger side. So I did an all over bleach on her, and then I deposited a semi permanent on top of that, so to give her more of that ginger. So she's gonna rock that for a few weeks and we'll see how she likes it. She just wanted to get rid of her grays, which I totally understand. Whereas with my niece, she's younger, so she just wanted like some highlights, which would look like super cool with, you know, someone in this family. She has really dark hair. My niece has really dark hair, but I was able to lighten it really, really easily. I did that weaving that you saw me kind of going through. That way when it grows out, it looks more natural. And then that way too, she can kind of try it out, but I did it around the frame of her face. That way when she pulls it back into a ponytail, it just kind of has that nice little sun kiss. So definitely see you're a professional when it's time to start playing with some color. Let them know what you like. Let them know what you dislike. Do a couple of swatches. And another thing that I always suggest is like, get some clip-ins. Get some clip-ins if you're not quite sure that you want to commit to color, and let those clip-ins be the color that you're interested in testing. Put that in that hair and see if you like it, you know, that way you can kind of just comb it over. And this is a messy version of what I'm trying to get to, but like put that clip-in in there and play with the color that way. That way you don't have to commit. And that way you can also see what you like and dislike. Of course, make sure the clip-in texture is the same texture as your hair. But if you get a clip-in that has that color in it that you're interested in playing with and kind of just put it in, that will allow you to play without the commitment. So that is my tip as we get ready to close this out. So your homework for today is to find some colors that you feel like will be complementary and flattering to your skin and to your hair texture and hair type, okay? All right, let's get into some color this week.